Okay, so I'm just fresh back from the cinema after watching the new Superman movie, and I want to say, first of all, it's fantastic. I had a blast watching this version of Superman take flight, but I do have a few things to say about it, and it's not me being negative, it's just a few things that I don't know, just kind of stood out to me when I was watching this film. Things that I didn't exactly like, and some things that I absolutely loved. And I will say, from here on, there are going to be spoilers. I'm not going to mess around just doing a spoiler-free review. This is going to be a spoiler review. So if you've not seen the movie yet, I recommend you go and watch it before you watch this video. Okay, so Clark Kent has been Superman for around 3 years when this movie starts. There's no origin story, there's none of that, you just straight into the action. Superman stops a foreign invasion between two rivaling countries, and the government is questioning whether Superman should be involved in global affairs. Well, Superman just wants to stop people from dying. That's all he's interested in. He's not interested in the right or the wrong or the politics of war. He's just interested in saving people. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor orchestrates a plan to discredit Superman in the public eye. Lex Luthor finds the Fortress of Solitude and he uncovers a corrupt part of a message from Superman's Kryptonian parents, encouraging him to take multiple wives and spread the Kryptonian gene. And this was something that Superman was not aware of. He had never seen this part of the message because it had been damaged in the flight to Earth. And Lex uses this info to turn the public against Superman. He also kidnaps Krypto. So this forces Superman to turn himself in, just so he can find out where Lex has kept Krypto. Maybe he'll take him to the same place. But wouldn't you know it, Lex Luthor imprisons Superman in a pocket dimension alongside Metamorpho, whose baby is also being held by Lex, leaving Metamorpho no choice but to expose Superman to kryptonite that he can form. Meanwhile, Lois Lane and Mr. Terrific work to free Superman from this pocket universe, and it's not long before Lex creates a black hole that threatens to tear Metropolis apart unless Superman and his pals can stop it. That is the plot in a nutshell. Obviously there's a little bit more going on, but that is a plot in a nutshell. Now, this Superman movie feels like a comic book come to life without a doubt. It also feels a lot like an episode of the animated series or the Justice League animated series, but in live action. And I have heard a few other people make this comparison, and I couldn't agree more. The inclusion of Krypto was a great decision, and it was highly entertaining and quite funny in parts. And they also address the problem with having a superpowered dog, as Superman feels the need to constantly watch over the dog or leave him at the fortress. There's one scene where Superman brings Krypto to the city because he doesn't want to leave him on the Kent farm in case he kills the cows, which I thought was quite amusing. The Fortress of Solitude is done to perfection, finally. It's kind of like the Chris Reeves version, but with far more functionality, and it actually seems like a place where Superman would want to go and hang out with his robot pals. I love the way it's hidden in the snow until Superman arrives, and it rises because it's activated from Superman's DNA. Now, when I say that this movie very much feels like a comic book come to life or a episode of the animated series, here's what I mean. When Superman is fighting the kaiju, there's no shock from the people of Metropolis. Even Superman seems to be taking it in his stride, like this is just another typical Tuesday in Metropolis, another Godzilla-sized threat. You get the feeling that the people in this DC universe are just used to these kind of things. And it's kind of structured like an episode of the animated series, how it just jumps from one action scene to the next. This movie was built as sheer entertainment, and there is quite a lot in this movie, which can at times make it feel a little overwhelming trying to keep up, even though it's not that hard to do so. It's just a lot. But this movie does succeed in many other ways. This movie gives Superman more personality than he has ever had before, in the movies especially. And I think that was the whole point of this movie, to show us a Superman with emotions, a Superman with flaws, who makes mistakes, who is human. And I also love the casting of the Kents. They feel like a really down-to-earth, normal couple who just so happen to find this alien baby. But I also like how Clark acts when he's back home on the Kent farm. There's a scene where he's sat outside of the house, barefoot, eating cereal, and I just felt that that one clip succeeded in humanising him like never before. I know it's a strange thing to say, but it really did stick out to me when I saw it. And like I said before, Superman has been active for around 3 years, and he's kind of part of this Justice gang, including Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, and Guy Garner. But he also works alone. I get the feeling he comes and goes as he wishes. And this version of Superman is beloved by the people of Metropolis. The people actually like him, something that was sorely missing from the Zack Snyder films. And I must admit, at some points in this movie, I couldn't help but feel that this didn't feel like Superman to me. It felt more like Superboy. Like, this is Superman Year One, and it kind of is. It's still early in his days of Superman. But then I changed my mind. This Superman actually takes the time to save people. There was one point in the movie where the kaiju creature blasts a skyscraper with its fire breath, and Superman actually turns around to ask the people if they are okay. Then he continues the fight. That, to me, is Superman. There's also a point in this fight scene where the kaiju is going to fall over into a building after Superman punches it in the face. And Superman flies behind it and catches it and stands it back up on its feet so it doesn't fall into a building. He's actively making sure that this thing doesn't hurt people. In this one scene alone, we see Superman save so many people from getting killed by this kaiju, including a dog, and at one point he even saves squirrels from being crushed. Squirrels. This Superman gives a shit, and he is massively kind-hearted. That, to me, is Superman. And I think these few things that I've just mentioned is something that has been sorely missed from the movies for quite some time. I mean, heck, that Superman also wants to take this Godzilla-sized threat alive. He does not want to hurt it. He doesn't want to kill it. That is Superman. And yes, this is all down to the writers. They wrote Superman perfectly, but it's also down to the performance of David Corenswet. He is a very good Superman. Oh, and at long last, we finally got the answer to an age-old question. How does no one know Clark Kent is Superman just because he wears glasses? Well, in this movie, they actually give us an answer. Hypno glasses. The glasses Clark Kent wears kind of make him look different to anyone looking at him. Somehow it tricks a person's mind into not seeing Superman behind the glasses. I thought that was kind of cool to finally have an explanation. And then we get up to Lex Luthor, who I think is played to perfection. I really like the jealous, unhinged version Nicholas Hoult brought to this movie. What I did not like was the fact that Lex Luthor once again was after land. I mean, come on, again? Land? But his main purpose was to make Superman the villain in the eyes of the world, and it did work, and you kind of forget that he's looking for land. It's not really that important. I just found it laughable that once again Lex Luthor is after land in this movie. And I also think the other characters in this movie, like Lois, Jimmy, and Perry, are all played very, very well. Although there was a part in this movie where Lois, Perry, Jimmy, and the rest of the Daily Planet gang board Mr. Terrific ship and head over to the climax of the movie. And it's filmed in such a way to suggest that the Daily Planet gang are on a mission to head out to the action, but there's no actual payout. It just fell flat and went nowhere at all. That was probably one of the main things that I found a little bit strange. I almost felt like there was a clip that was missing there, that had been deleted maybe. The main villains in the movie, like the Engineer and Ultraman, were fine, I guess. I'm just glad that they were not the only threats in this movie. Ultraman, of course, turns out to be Superman's clone, and this kind of came as no surprise, especially when the fortress opens up for Ultraman earlier on in the movie. Yeah, Lex and his pal are there too, but this made it even more obvious, even to the viewer of the movie who has no interest in the DC lore. But I will say this, the things I liked about the movie kind of outweighed the things that I didn't. If I have any complaint, it's that this movie throws too much at you too soon, and the editing feels a little hectic and messy at parts. Sometimes we join the action scenes after the fact. We join the action in the middle, which was a little bit jarring. Also, the decision they made to make Jor-El and Lara villains, I was not a fan of, and I thought it would have been better if Lex had faked the message to make people turn against Superman. Like I said, there were times where I thought this didn't feel like a Superman movie, you felt more like Superboy, and then something would happen on screen that was very Superman, and it made me change my mind. In a nutshell, I feel that Corenswet's version of Superman is a Superman who is still making mistakes and finding his way, but that's kind of what makes this movie so charming. Superman is relatable. I've seen so many people complain about the scene where Superman flips Lex Luthor's desk because he's looking for Krypto and Lex Luthor has took him. Under the circumstances, I think Superman showed a lot of restraint. If it was my dog and I was Superman, I would have probably called in John Wick. This version of Superman is like one we have never had before, and he's more in line with the Chris Reeve Superman, but set in a crazy part of the DC universe, and I loved every minute of it.